We are here to discuss what school safety looks like in the 21st century. My name is Sierra. I'll be presenting this presentation to you. I hope you enjoy it. So school safety in the 21st century today has become something different than what it used to be back in 20 years ago, before Columbine took place. School shootings are an everyday occurrence, and they're normal for today's youth. So any person that was born usually after 1995 or so has known nothing but school shootings in their lifetime and in any school that they go to. So this is a part of what they've always grown up with. So to them, this is normal, but it should not be normal. So school safety in the 21st century looks very different than what it did back then. We now have to fortify our schools. We now have to make sure that our students are safe both inside and out of the school, and based on whatever they bring in from their homes into our schools. It affects everyone that's around them. So we have to take that and we have to apply it to what we need to do to help approach and to adjust for that student's life and their changes that they're going through that could affect others in our schools. So solutions are the biggest problems that we face in schools today and in the future. What are the solutions? How do they look? And how can they be presented? Today we'll get into a few of those solutions, and we'll decide or look at what our research for my district has been based on and what we have worked the last year tirelessly doing to try and address these situations that face us. Our parents, teachers, and staff have all been involved with this. We have been doing this for since about 18 months now. So it's been a long time coming, and we've made some great strides and some huge changes. So school shootings are an everyday occurrence and normal for our today's youth, like I said. Students born after 1995 have known nothing else but violence in their schools. From 1974 to 2000, students that were injured and killed was only in the amount of 37. From 1999 to 2008, that number jumped to 193. Now, just from 2013 to 2015, the instances where a gun was just brought to school or where a student was injured or killed has hit 254. That is only in 2 years. That is huge. That changes our perspective on everything greatly. And it means it needs to be adjusted. It needs to be figured out. So students who have lived this and who have been through this are trying to figure out how they can go to school to what used to be a safe zone that is no longer a safe zone. So with that, there have always been clear warning signs most of the time with any one of these shootings that have taken place, whether it be by suicide attempts, whether it be by mental health, whether it be by the student making death threats, kill lists. All of these things are usually known prior to that, and then aggressive outbursts by the student are also very well seen. So in most instances, this could have been corrected, fixed, or adjusted. But most people did not know or understand what to look for. So as we found out in Parkland, the person that did the shooting made threats and made attempts or letting people know via Facebook or other social media that he had planned on becoming a school shooter. He wanted to go down in history as the one person that was able to do it in multiple schools at different times. He had a plan that would have worked, but that plan did not go through as planned. So he ended up getting caught. He was able to be followed. He made mistakes that weren't unaccounted for, but had a plan that could have worked if it had just gone a little bit differently. Today, in the 21st century, as we stand here and as I stand in a district office of a school district, there is required to have SROs or armed guards in schools today. There is no way about it. You have to have some sort of an armed guard or an SRO in a school. Now, that does not mean it's going to take away the chance of something happening, but it will lessen the attempts or lessen the chance of something taking place, and also give someone on premise that might be able to be there and present if something were to take place. Making schools harder targets is a priority as well. So having a gun-free zone sign posted out front may be something that needs to be addressed. Those are things that each school has to look at and decide what is best for them. So how do we make our schools harder targets? We have to understand what's affecting our schools. That includes the mental health and the needs of our students. When we deal with violent situations and active shooters in schools, it is based on how they were raised instances in their childhoods, and what they have brought into the schools from here on out. So, since 1999, you'll see the graph on there that shows that how many school shootings or school shootings that have taken place every year since 1999. That's a huge, huge amount. 2014 showed the highest, and there was 15 at that time. That was a gigantic leap from what it used to be. So those are all the actual school shootings that have taken place since 1999. That's a huge number. Preparing our teachers to deal and to fight and to become the selfless people that we need them to be is another problem all in itself. We hire a teacher to teach. We do not hire a teacher to protect or to learn how to fight or to have a fight or flight mode. We hire them to teach our students. That's what their job is. We should not be having to ask them to not only just teach our students, but to protect them in a time of need. Nowadays, it's a requirement. Any teacher that comes into a school that is going to be doing this has to have that ability. And that is not always easy. So some schools are even arming their teachers, so now they're asking them to teach as well as protect our students, unfortunately, and that's a hard thing to learn. Applying safety film and bulletproof glass on both the outside and inside of schools is another avenue that has been taken. I know in our district we have started on that. That was a plan that I set up in place at the beginning of this year. We have now got all of our schools are going to have safety film on all of the outside of the schools, and some places on the interior of the schools where there's offices have many windows. That is only one way to be able to help to protect, but it's not going to stop someone from coming in. It doesn't stop a bullet. It doesn't do any of that. All it does is make it, if they do shoot something into the glass or they try to get into the school when a school is locked down, it makes it more difficult. It takes the timing of seconds to minute or minutes, depending on how strong or how aggressive the person is to the windows. It buys time. That's all it does. It doesn't stop it. It doesn't eliminate it. It just buys time. Mental health and making schools harder targets are the biggest priority of any school nowadays, and it's unfortunate it's come to that, but that is what we have to look to. In this day and age, students have so many outside influences, and many have become so bitter and so mean that our schools need to have mental health services available available to their students and their staff, because they need to learn how to deal with this. The students need to learn how to cope. The teachers need to learn how to be able to deal with the students and address a situation if one should come up. Schools now have to figure out how to deter someone from committing a violent act on their school, as well as how to make their schools unappealing to someone wanting to harm anyone of any kind. So how do they now have to decide how they're going to make their school a more prison-looking, or I guess not wanting people to come in. They're trying to make it to where it's uninviting for them to want to come in and commit a violent act of crime of some sort. Committing a violent act, excuse me. But when we first started with our schools, it was intended for them to be a safe place. And it is now not just a safe place, it's how do we keep them safe in this place at the time. Their budget doesn't seem to, the budget doesn't just include educational materials now. It now includes self-defense training, finding the funds to protect their students from violence that takes place inside and outside of the buildings. So these violent acts that take place to these children that are not in our schools at that time, they still bring it to school with them. So now we have to find the money to be able to help them with issues that are going on outside of our school that are brought to school with them on a daily basis. Mental health is a touchy subject. There were labels that are in place and can set up for the wrong impression. When mental health is involved, it needs to be a helping agent, not as a label. For instance, you have a student that is being bullied or abused daily. They may need to have someone that evaluates, some evaluations done, something that can look at them from another perspective. Make sure that they know that people are there and listening, and that they want to help them. And they cannot do it in an accusing or a detrimental manner. It has to be done in a very delicate, easy, but comforting way for the child. Otherwise, they're never going to turn around. They're never going to come back. All they're going to do is take their aggression on to someone else. Someone needs to be able to read the signs that they are struggling. Understand certain key phrases and words that are trigger words, that something underlying in their emotional or mental state is taking place. Mental health services can help train and teach our staff what to look for in a student so that they can catch things before they get out of hand and get the student the help that they need to cope with the issues around them, to help them fix things, to listen to them, to show them someone always cares. If you ask students today why they think a student commits the violence or hurts other students, they will tell you because someone didn't know that there was a problem and that they needed mental or physical help, even emotional help. After the Parkland shooting, the students cried out that someone should have been able to see that the shooter was planning something. There were signs of mental illness, things that people around him should have been able to see. When we talk about how to address school safety, we need to look at the whole child. This entails finding different avenues to be able to help the child in not just the physical manner, but in the emotional, mental, and physical manner. Part of those ways are being able to do what's called QPR training: question, persuade, and refer. This is training that Heritage Health, a place here in our district, provides, and is to help equip education staff to read their students, to be able to help them without having to put them in an adverse position. Suicide is one of the leading killers of young people. Now, if you take this and apply it to the school safety we get, according to the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, Idaho is in the top 5 states with the highest suicide rate, just behind Montana, Wyoming, and Alaska, which is the highest state in the nation. The Jason Foundation also states that 81% of suicides ages 10 to 24 were males, 19% were female. If we apply the school shooting statistics to this, it becomes even more interesting. 93.5% of the shooters were male, and of these, 26.8% committed suicide. 78% of attackers had a history of suicide attempts. All of this plays into the number of school shootings that take place, and the history, most shooters were under the age of 19 and had either attended or were attending the school that they attacked. This was true for Columbine. This was even true for the most recent the Parkland shooting, which was a student who graduated a couple of years prior, but had been in the foster system and had been taken in by some parents, but had had a life-altering event that took place in November that triggered him and set him over the edge to make these plans that he did. The next thing that we have to look at is the solutions for the problems that we face today. So at the beginning of the year, the assistant superintendent and I chose to do a collaboration with all of our teachers. We chose to put them into a room and to ask questions, to ask how they felt, what was bothering them, how things needed to be addressed, and what their concerns were. So we did a graph of where things were at the beginning of the year to where and what the teachers needed at the end of the year. So in that, we took our training and mirrored it to what they were asking for. So it started with all emergency drills need to be readdressed and rewritten to address concerns from past attacks that have taken place. So with that means that we are looking for unforeseen events that take place. Primary example, fire drills are practiced constantly. So they are done like clockwork. They're required by state law, by federal law, that you have to do one once a month over the entire time frame of the school year. So they're taught to get out quickly, they're taught to leave the school and go to the designated location. But in 2 of the school shooting instances, the fire alarms have been pulled, and the shooters used it as their chance to take out as many lives as possible. In a few cases, bombs and IEDs have been set up to take more lives as everyone was trying to exit the building. So to deter when an alarm is set off and it's unplanned and it's unscheduled, it's not on our books, specific staff has been assigned in our school districts to check the school in under 3 minutes to make sure that either there is a fire, there isn't a fire, or that there is other issues taking place. As soon as they see that yes, there is a problem, that there is smoke, that there is something taking place and happening here, then over the intercom, the students are told to leave the building ASAP and go to their designated meeting location to evacuate the school. If they foresee and they find that there is nothing that has taken place, then we choose to have the school looked over, make sure that it's all safe for the students to be able to go. And at that time, we practice the drill just as we normally would have in the very beginning. We would send the students and say, this is a fire drill. We're going to exit the building and evacuate just like we would do in a normal drill. Then that's what they do. We count it down as one of our monthly drills, and we follow through with what we've done. This is not something that we want to do. It's not something that we choose to say that it's now not an option. We have to think about what's best for our students, and in that we have to decide that yes, these drills have to be reevaluated, they have to be readjusted, and we need to make sure that we are doing the right thing. The other part of this is teachers need to have specific training for active shooters. They need to have specific training for suicide awareness and self-defense classes. It's not something that's easy for a teacher to want to do or to be put in that position to say, yes, you need to have emotional and self-defense training, but it's also very important for them to understand that if they do have to defend themselves, they have the ability to do that. That is huge. If a teacher feels empowered, and if they feel like that if they were put into a situation that they could do this, that is what they can do. This is huge. Next, the schools, they've asked that the schools be made hard targets instead of soft targets. This included taking down the gun-free zone signs and now posting up there that there's armed guards in our schools or SROs on premise at all time. Most of the time we have a police vehicle that is parked outside of our schools because we have officers in our buildings at any one time of the day all year long. So we have them constantly coming in and out of our schools. Teachers and other staff need to feel heard and listened to no matter the issue. It could be as minor as a student that is making them feel uncomfortable, a student that has anger issues. It could be even to the point to where they feel like they need to have something on their window so that not everybody can see in. It doesn't matter what the issue is. If the teacher feels heard and if they feel like that they are being listened to and that we are trying to address the situation, it makes them feel safer and it gives them the ability to concentrate on their students and to make sure that they're protected instead of having to think about everything else that's around them that might be causing the problem. Now we get into the stakeholders' feedback. It is vital for our solutions that we've chosen to put in that we get the feedback from our stakeholders. Our biggest stakeholders is our school board, which is who decides if what we're proposing can be used. They decide if what we're being addressed in the schools or what we're choosing to do can be used or if it's against state board or policy. They can also give their opinion saying that no, we do not feel like our teachers that we need to arm our teachers because their job is to teach. Their job is not to carry a firearm to try and protect those students. They're there to teach them. It is our job to find someone else that can do that part so that they can do their job. They also need to be a part of the bargaining. If the teachers feel like they need something else or need to change things, they're the ones that need to be on that bargaining part of it to where we can make sure that we are both coming to a middle for any solution that needs to happen. Their sole purpose is to protect the students and advocate on the student and staff's behalf. Teachers and staff is our other part of one of our big stakeholders. In fact, they're probably one of our biggest. Teachers and staff have to feel listened, heard, and important. The staff's concerns need to be addressed, heard, and considered. If they feel safer and that things are being changed, the things that are being changed are helping them, then they can do their job. Staff must be able to give feedback on how the new measures are working or not working, and they have to feel safe doing it. Parents, which is the whole reason why we have a school system in the first place, because they send our kids to be taught. They trust us with their kids. So protecting the most important thing in a parent's life has to take first priority. But this also needs to be feel heard and that their concerns carry weight. Of any stakeholders, I think that they are the most important. They're the reason we have schools in the first place. Our transparency with what we choose to do with the money that they pay in taxes or that they give us to be able to make our schools a better learning environment or a safer place, they need to know where it's going to and that we're using those dollars to fund those areas. So when we ask them to pay extra on their taxes because we need to put we need to be able to protect against active shooters, which means putting SROs or armed guards in our schools, then that's what we do. If we need to be able to ask for extra money to be able to put safety film on our schools so that their kids are safer and that they feel safer, we have to show them where that money is coming from and where it is going to. That is huge. And when they see that and when they feel that we're listening and hearing them and doing these things to make them and their children feel safer, then we have done our job. Evaluation has to be taking place as well. So, town hall meetings need to be scheduled to update the stakeholders on our progress and receive their feedback. That is huge. We do those twice a year, and they need to be done, and every school should be doing them, because otherwise the people that are in their district and the parents of those students have no idea what that school is doing unless we bring them in and we give them the option to ask questions and to address things and to bring up concerns that they have. Staff has to be debriefed at the beginning and end of every year to see how they are feeling, and if they feel that what we are doing is helping them to feel safer, or if there's other things that we should be doing that we're not doing enough of. A review of all training, and to be able to hold debriefs after all to see how the staff responds. So after all of the training that we do, whether that be for the CRACE training, whether that be for the QPR training, which is the suicide awareness, for us to be able to do the active shooter drills, which we conduct in our school every year at every one of our schools in our district, we need to hear from them whether they feel that this training has empowered them, if it has helped them, or if it has hindered them. If it's hindered them, we need to figure out how to readdress it to where it does help them. This training will change how they are, how they feel, and how they teach in our schools. They have to know that we care. And we have to decide on the next steps that need to happen to be able to involve our stakeholders, to know that we're listening to them, and to be able to make sure that they are a part of any choice and any decision that we make. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I know it had a lot to do with unfun things to talk about, but maybe it'll give us some good ideas and some good things to work forward and work towards in the near future. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.